Hey YouTube, Untamed here. Today I'm going to talk about my favorite part of my brand new 2024 Silverado 1500 ZR2 Bison, and that is the 3-liter diesel. I'm going to talk through why I believe that this is easily the best diesel engine that GM has ever produced, and I think it's a very promising purchase. Obviously I have a bias, I bought the thing, but a lot of you guys were kind of confused. Why would I buy a GM product? You guys know I'm a pretty big Toyota enthusiast. I've deviated a couple times. I've had a couple Raptors along the way, the Lexus of course, Cadillac, but this particular platform here came as a shock to a lot of you guys, and I kind of want to use this video to kind of explain why, and much of it is what lies underneath the hood there. That 3-liter single turbo dual overhead cam diesel engine really is a phenomenal platform. In fact, GM co-produced it or co-designed it with a German automotive company called Opel, and they went into designing it to be the best diesel engine that they've ever made. So in this video, I'm going to talk through all the details of what makes this so special and really why I think you guys should consider it too. So the 3-liter diesel engine here is not new to GM. They first introduced the 3-liter here back in 2019 with their quote-unquote first generation, the LM2 generation. This here, brand new in 2023, last year's model, excuse me, this is a 24 Silverado, is considered the LZ0. There are a number of upgrades and enhancements made to this 3-liter diesel engine, which is kind of fascinating because the LM2 really already had quite the excellent reputation. People are kind of ranting and raving about the LM2, but there are just a couple minor pitfalls to it, and the LZ0 here really did fix them all, I think. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna pop in here, pop the hood for you, and show you. Well, not show you. Well, I'll show you the engine, but I'll really talk through the internal upgrades that were made for the LZ0 here. So for starters, all right, let me see if I can get this one hand. There you have it. So for starters, what do you notice right off the bat? You notice that there is a ton of accessibility, right? So it's not totally crammed in here or shoehorned in here like what you would find on like the 6.2 liter V8 over there. The giant V8s that I'm used to are just crammed underneath the hood, right? This, from a mechanic standpoint, and I guess from a long-term ownership standpoint, this is pretty enticing. You guys know me, I don't typically own a vehicle that long, so I won't try to sugarcoat this point, but look how accessible this turbo is right here. So single turbo, dual overhead cam, 3-liter setup here. Got your sensors connected to it. Everything, your airbox, everything is just so accessible, right? And that's the beauty of it just being an inline 6. Right? Everything is just so easy to access, and I love that fact about it. So let's talk about what makes this different from that LM2, the previous generation 3-liter diesel. For starters, let's talk performance numbers. This has 305 horsepower and 495 foot-pounds of torque. That is 28 more horsepower and 35 more foot-pounds of torque. So although that's not a huge uptick, it is given the fact that they didn't really adjust all that much when it comes to the same 3-liter, still same size engine, still although a revised turbo, still the same size turbo here as well compared to the LM2. So pretty impressive that they were able to bump up the performance numbers that much. But that's not the most important bit. I think the most important bit comes from what they change on the internals. This is quite the beefy engine, and this is really what sold me on it as I was looking. And I know a lot of you guys are like, man, Untamed, why'd you jump ship? Why'd you leave Toyota for a freaking Chevy? And I know when you say that out loud, it does sound pretty bad. Because I love Toyota historically because of their excellent reliability, the reputation that they've developed. I'm a little leery with the new generation Tundra, new generation Tacoma, and Land Cruiser stuff coming out with the hybrid setups. This here gives me full peace of mind knowing what I know about it. So what did they do? They upgraded a ton of the internals. So it still has an aluminum head and block, but the internals are much different. Previously they had aluminum pistons, and now they have a forged steel piston setup. So previously the pistons were much larger, as you'd imagine, what we're used to seeing with each of the pistons, but because it's steel, it's much more heat resistant and just a ton stronger, quite a bit stronger, right? So because of that, they're able to shrink the size of it all while retaining the same exact weight, which is very important for a diesel engine because vibrations, right? Because I think easily a main problem that we often find with diesel engines is, you often lose or you often gain a ton of vibration, and that can really affect the longevity of the vehicle if there's too much vibration. In addition to that, they ended up upgrading the two forged steel connecting rods that are 25% stronger, they say. The connecting rods obviously being connecting to each of the pistons that are each of the 6 pistons within it. So you got a steel piston at the top and then the steel connecting rod down below. Previously that was an aluminum connecting rod. So that in and of itself would have been a huge upgrade, but they went one step further and they actually upgraded the cylinder walls to be forged steel as well. So everything within the actual internals of the engine is extremely robust, extremely heat resistant. And why is that important? I mean, if we do have aluminum heads and aluminum cylinder walls in there, it allows for a lot more deviation, right? A lot more expansion when it heats up and cools down. Contraction and expansion, that doesn't happen so much in this. So it's a very robust internal setup within this new LZ0 platform. In addition to that, we saw a revised turbo, so just an upgraded turbo a little bit, as well as a new cylinder head, new intake cam, and new intake valves. So what does that mean? We're now putting in more air into this engine here. We're putting more air into it, which would require us to put in more fuel technically. So because of that, GM upgraded the fuel injectors on this new LZ0 as well. So we enhanced the amount of air that actually, the airflow that comes into the engine, and we enhanced the burning capability of the fuel injectors. So between those two, you would maybe assume that there would be maybe a detrimental impact to the fuel economy. And in fact, it's gone up a little bit. So on paper, they say that the ZR2 diesel here, the 3-liter diesel, would crank out 24 miles per gallon combined. That's what they say. And if you look on the forums, if you look at any kind of YouTube video of this, people will rant and rave about the amazing numbers that they're seeing. They're seeing between 25 and 30 all day long. That's all of the testimonials that I've read. I've never read anybody getting less than the 24 that they suggest. So that is absolutely incredible. Can you imagine? So 25 to 30 miles to the gallon out of a full-size truck here. That is pretty remarkable. I was getting 18 miles to the gallon in my Toyota Tacoma. So, I mean, so a mid-sized pickup compared to this. So that in and of itself is pretty huge for a lot of people. All of the, GM has been able to sustain this 3-liter diesel engine because of their success with it. And much of that success comes with, the ability to keep emissions down. Ram with their EcoDiesel, Ford, they all failed. They ended up peeling off of their small diesel engine platforms because of that. Their emissions were not up to par. Whereas this platform here has done a phenomenal job at keeping emissions down. So hats off to GM for being able to do that. So let's talk about the bad of it. I can't be all unicorns and rainbows with it. So the worst part of this, from what I've gathered from a number of videos, a number of forum reads that I've done, is the gear train. So the gear train of this vehicle is actually at the rear. Normally a gear train is going to be up front on a diesel engine, but given the fact that this is an inline 6, it's kind of a longer engine, right? And because of that, GM said they put their gear train in the back behind the engine, kind of underneath the cab a little bit. So the bad of this is the oil pump belt. And if you watch any videos of this, people are quick to at least mention this anyway, because it is an inevitable pain in the rear that we'll all have to face at some point. So with the LM2, the previous generation 3-liter diesel, that oil pump belt needed to be replaced. It was extended to, or at least the warranty was extended to 150,000 miles. Or I shouldn't say warranty, but they said it would last till 150,000. They extended that to 200,000 miles for this particular LZ0, this updated platform here. So at 200,000 miles, we're now required to replace that oil pump belt. But the problem is, it's at the rear of the vehicle. And you may be asking, okay, well, it's a long inline 6. Is that really enough reason for it to be at the back? Because this was co-designed and co-developed with Opel, that German automotive manufacturer. Much of their vehicles out there, much of their diesel platforms go into cab over semi trucks, so they can pull the cab up and over and access the engine from the back easily. And I think that's kind of a part of the design here, right? And obviously not conducive with a vehicle like this per se. So I think that is kind of a driving reason behind it, in addition to it being a long engine, of course. But that oil pump belt is going to be a spendy repair or replacement come that time, around 200,000 miles, because you do have to remove the transmission. You have to remove the transmission to even access the thing. So that is a huge headache, inevitable headache that we'll end up getting to at some point. In addition to that, the fuel pump. The fuel pump is rated to 100,000 miles, so another inevitable thing that we'll have to swap out. And fuel pumps on diesel engines are a lot more complex, if you don't know, so compared to a gas engine. That fuel pump being swapped out at 100,000 miles, again, it being a rear gear train vehicle, it's going to take a lot of removals to get to it. You gotta access it, and it's just going to take a little bit. You don't have to remove the transmission, to my understanding, but you do have to remove a bunch of things to actually access it, unfortunately. So that is another quote-unquote bad thing to consider here. But you know, even though it is a rear gear train vehicle, the noise is much less because it's technically like underneath the cab. It's not right in front of you, and you're not kind of following the noise. So that is a small silver lining of it all. So that is, I think, honestly, the reason why I ended up pulling the trigger on this. This 3-liter single turbo dual overhead cam diesel engine really is a phenomenal platform that has a lot. It seems extremely promising. GM has figured it out. GM is the only one offering this smaller diesel engine option in a full-size truck anymore in this segment. So I think they got it right. I'm excited to get a longer ownership with it. And I know some of you are already kind of grinning when I say longer ownership. What does that mean? 88 hours? But I am excited to bring you guys a lot more content on this. The torque delivery of it, it really is a thrill to drive. And combined with the fact that it is, you know, just a 1500, it's not a heavy duty truck, you know, allows it to be very nimble on the road, I think. You can actually drive it through, you can drive it through parking lots, you can park it easily. The turning radius is great on it, better than the Tundra. So I mean, like, there are some things that, when you combine that diesel engine power plant with the nimbleness and mobility of this 1500 package here, really does it. And the amazing suspension of the ZR2, it really is the whole package, guys. And I know some of you guys, no matter what I say, the fact that it's a GM is gonna cloud any kind of positivity, and I understand that. Some people get pretty die-hard on it, and myself too. I mean, I've always kind of been a pretty die-hard Toyota guy, but this, to me, guys, really is the perfect package, and I'm extremely happy and excited that I've gotten it and I've been able to get this. So excited to provide more content on it. You know, last point I'll make, the thing that I noticed right out of the get-go was just how snappy it was. You know, and this is coming from someone, we do have a 6.2 liter. This is an option that you can get in the ZR2 as well. So I could have got that same exact engine in this, but the snappiness and the torque of this 3-liter diesel really is such a blast to drive, guys. And I think that the technical numbers, just in case you're wondering, is you do get 460 torque at 1500 RPMs, but then you get peak delivery of the full 495 torque at 2,650 RPM. So it's kind of a bit of a hike to get to the full 495. But the previous generation, the LM2, the maximum torque was 460, and that power delivery the peak torque came on at 1500 before as well. So this really just took it to a new level, bumping it to that 495, and you feel it. Yeah, and I love how quickly it really does come on when you're driving it. So I've made this a long video, guys. I apologize, but really just want to geek out with you and kind of describe some of the additions to this diesel engine that really make it special. I'm very happy with it. What are your thoughts of it? Appreciate you watching as always. Till next time.